Okay, so we are going to trim this bowl, and we are thinking about trimming this for the application. It eventually is going to be made out of flameware, so we're not going to put that foot ring on the bottom. I've centered my bowl upside down, and now I'm taking my 3 balls of clay, holding the bowl into the wheel head, and then, well, so you can see it, go like that, and then pushing down into the wheel head. That's going to push the clay enough into the side to hold it in place. Okay. So I've got for my tools today, I've got a couple different trimming tools with different sizes and shapes. I've got a flexible red rib and a metal rib, and I've got my sponge. So those are my tools that I'm going to use. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move my foot ring in. I want this to be moved in a little bit more so that I can accentuate the curve of this form here, so that I can play with the proportion and so kind of focus the line that's drawn in between. But I'm not going to make a depression here for my foot ring. It's going to be a flat space. So I do need to go down because it's a little bit thick. And I'm going to start with a bigger, rounder tool. My left hand is holding the pot down on the inside, and I've got my tool in my right hand. I'm always going to touch my hands together so that I am nice and stable. And I am holding this right in place until I bring it in, and there's a little bit of maybe an air bubble there, but until I bring it in to be kind of the width that I want. I'm still trying to think about having the floor of this be underneath the transition between where the wall and floor, like with the bowl, it's a curve, right? But we wouldn't want to bring the foot ring all the way in because it would become very unstable. But we don't want it out so far that we can't get rid of some of this extra support clay. So I like kind of the thickness or the width of that. So since we're all about measuring, let's say you bring your foot ring width into 3 inches. Okay, so 3 inches. Now what I can do is I can take away some of this clay here, and I'm going to start at the bottom. I know that I felt this before I put this down on the wheel, and I have a significant amount of clay here, and then I start to get more even thickness. So I'm going to just start lightly with my pressure and start coming up. Now, for some of you, when you're trimming your plates, you ended up with a lot of spirals and kind of bumpity bump, and that's because you came up too quickly with your tool. So if I come up too quickly and I come up too quickly and I come up too quickly, I'm starting to get that spiral and that bump around there because I'm only passing around on a spiral. And what I want to do is wait for this piece of clay to come all the way around before I move my tool up. So I'm going to start down at the bottom, and I'm just going to slowly come up. I can go a little faster with my my wheel when I'm trimming, but you know, the faster you go, the more likelihood you have this thing flying off the wheel head. So you don't want to go out of control here. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of tapering. And I'm kind of releasing my pressure as I go down. Now with this, I have quite a bit of clay here, so I'm gonna go down a solid 1/4 of an inch, if not a little bit more. And the way that I'm gonna measure that is that I'm going to leave a little notch here in the top so I can see how far I'm going down. So I'm just gonna take the corner of my tool here and slowly start to bring my tool out. Again, I'm holding my tool with both hands. I can flip over and just even this out as I come out. I don't want to do it all at once. I want to continue kind of compressing this as I go. And this will allow me to know what my thickness or how much clay I'm taking out. Now as I go down, what's happening to this base of my bowl? It's getting thinner, but it's also getting wider, right? So I'm probably going to have to bring that outside edge in a little bit once I'm done here. And I'm really putting quite a bit of pressure on my tool, kind of tugging it back to myself. My arms are tucked into my body. And that's so it doesn't, you know, pull away from you. Now I do want this floor with the flameware being a little bit thicker than the walls because I want it to be able to retain that heat and be really nice and sturdy. So I think I'm gonna go down a little bit more before I trim that edge out. My little balls of clay have come a little loose, so I'm just gonna stop and tack those back down. Sometimes you need to stop and recenter, and that's okay. So I'm just gonna pause here and do a little tapping. And I can hear that it's a higher pitch down here where I know it's thin. It's a little bit lower pitch here. It's an even lower pitch here. So I know that I've gone down a significant amount, and I'm happy with that distance. So now what I can do is I'm gonna just trim away this little nubbin right here, this little bit. And I can get rid of that so that I bring this flat. Okay, I'm gonna take a measurement again because I wanted to go to 3 inches, right? And now I'm at 3.5, so I need to bring this line in. So I'll go back to my side and just hang out here and bring that edge in and taper that curve down again. And I'll give it a check. 3 inches on the nose. So I want to take a look at this curve. I want to make sure that it's nice and continuous all the way up the side. I'm putting really light pressure here, just trying to clean it up. What we could do here is if we wanted to mimic that top ring, we could make an exterior foot but not make an interior foot. So I'm just holding my tool in place, because I did have quite a bit of clay here. So now I can take this clay and round it down, get rid of a little bit more of that thickness, have a nicer curve. And now I can round this to mimic that down there. And again, we can make a tool that does this, which is nice. So then we have this really nice edge rim that if this gets knocked around in the restaurant, it's not going to chip because it's got this nice rim. It's rounded. And now we have sort of similar language on the top and bottom. I want a nice continuous curve that doesn't have a bump here on the outside, so I'm just taking a little bit more clay off this so that I have a really nice smooth transition. Okay, and now on the inside, I want to make sure that this is lower than here, so I do need to make it slightly concave. Okay, so I will flip to my round tool here, and I'm just going to start in the middle and slowly kind of taper this out, or taper it in, I guess, from the outside in. And that's just to ensure that the rim of the bowl is actually the high point. If the interior is a high point, it's going to create a kind of spinning top situation, which we really don't want. And then I'll just round this right over my edge. Okay, so now here's when I switch to my soft ribs, either a soft plastic rib or your metal rib. And I'm just going to come and compress this. I can go back and clean up what I just did. Sometimes things happen. Sometimes your tool catches. So I'm just gonna redefine that because my tool just kind of grabbed it a little bit. So I'm just gonna hang out here on this bottom part of my bowl and slide up and down.
Sad day.
That's all right. That sometimes happens. So let's just pop this bowl back upside down. Not to worry. Where did you lose my other piece? Oh well, I'll just do it this way. See if I can recenter it. This is a fun action-packed video. So you're just gonna pretend that never happened, but you know, sometimes it does. That's why we make extras. So I'm just gonna kind of center this as best I can. It's really funny. Yeah. Real life on the potter's wheel. I know, real life on the potter's wheel. Let's see what I can do. All right, I've got a little bump here. So again, it's like thousand tiny corrections with clay, isn't it? How do you fix what you just did? So I'm just going over that little bump there that got mucked about. I'm not really worried about it. Anyway, so as I was saying, I'm compressing the bowl. It's going a little too fast. You imagine that I've compressed this because this is all the clay that we've exposed, right? And then I can come with my rib and I can compress over my rim, make that nice and smooth. And then I can come and hang out on the bottom, on the floor, and compress that. Because remember, we're leaving this a little thicker, and so you're just gonna like hang out here for a good, 60 to 90 seconds, going back and forth, getting rid of all those tool marks. Do. I was ready for it. Okay. Potting. All right, so let's see what else we do here.
You want to do some facets?
We could do a little paddle to get this bad boy back in shape. I mean, there's all sorts of things you can do. An accident is always just an opportunity to make different decisions. So.
That's so optimistic.
It is, Diana. Right, but my rim's like, it's almost circular again. That's exciting. That's exciting. Yeah, it's got this like kind of swooshy side here. I can just come with my thumb on the inside and stretch it back out. I can do the same thing over here where the side of the wheel really dented this thing in. It's like some kind of decorative element right now. Right, this is why we make multiples. Like this happens to me too. And then it's like, how do you recover from it, right? But this is why we make multiples, literally, so that we can have room for error. But as far as a demo bowl that flew off the wheel, it does not look horrible. So you're gonna make this bottom a little bit, depressed in, so that now that it sits flat, we've got a rim here and a rim here that visually match each other. It also makes a nice place for kind of holding for service. In the next iteration of these, we're going to talk about how we can drop this rim to make a thumb rest. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and stop that video. Thanks.